Hi, I'm Jimmy Carnegie and I'm here in Cambridge with my friend and collaborator Barnaby Brown, and this is the first in a series for pibroch.com.
And it's in memory of David Hester. David was a rebel, a wonderful rebel, the best sort of rebel, really irritating the establishment, but without ego. And that's very special, and it's essential in science and in research because you leap out of habits, old habits, and you can grow. And so David was somebody who brought that researcher's curiosity to pibroch. And he was fascinated by the old manuscripts. And that's what we're going to be looking at. Jimmy's chosen a tune. And tell me why you've chosen this tune, Jimmy.
First of all, I needed a new tune. I want to do something a little bit different to what I'm doing at the moment, which is playing fairly well-known pibroch, and I love doing that. That's great, and competing with them, brilliant fun. But I wanted to try something that's a little bit different in terms of the notes in the tune. So there's some cheddary in this, which I haven't really played before, and also above all, it's a tune that is very rarely played, if ever.
Well, it's very short. It's only got one variation, and it was published years and years and years ago in Pibroch Society Book 4. It's on page 111, Nameless, from Angus Mackay's manuscript. Well, in fact, Angus Mackay got it from the Highland Society manuscripts, which we now call the MacGregor manuscript. And here's a glorious, sumptuous edition of that manuscript, which was made in 1820. And this edition is by the formidable Dutch scholar Frans Bousman, and at that time President of the Pibroch Society, Andrew Wright. And they collaborated, producing what's effectively a three-part book. You've got, amazing in-depth research by Frans, then a facsimile of the manuscript. But to be honest, it's actually easier to read the manuscript on pibroch.com. David lovingly took new photographs of every single page. So do use the website and enjoy full colour, high resolution images of the manuscript, with thanks to the National Library of Scotland. And then there is Frans Bousman's edition with critical apparatus, and then there's Andrew Wright's Performer's edition, which is more familiar to what pipers are used to reading. So we've got all these different scores: the manuscript, Pibroch Society edition, Andrew Wright's edition, and Frans Bousman's edition. But actually, let's burn them all.
Let's burn them all, Barnaby. Where's the fire? Where's the fire?
Well, the reason I like to burn them all is because people didn't learn pibroch by looking at dots.
You're just being rebellious here.
Yes. and the McCrimmons certainly didn't use dots. Yeah. But I think they had a deeply, an antipathy to the idea of writing music down. And I think it's a fundamental difference in approach. We're going to learn this tune the way they did, which is by singing it. Now, one of the things about this series is we don't know what's coming, okay? So poor old Jimmy. And actually, I'm very grateful to you because you have courage to sing when people told you that you couldn't sing.
Indeed.
Okay? And I've taught a lot of students who are really uncomfortable about singing. And that's something that we have to deal with, both as teachers and as learners. You want to play the bagpipe, you don't want to sing. Okay, that's very normal in our culture. Now, so if we're going to do it the McCrimmon way, we've got to sort of get over that hump. Yep. So we're just going to go for it. I'm going to push you over the edge.
Yes, over the edge.
And thank you. Thank you for having the courage.
Thank you for saying I have the courage.
Okay, so I'm going to look carefully at the dots here, but I'm going to, so that I don't teach it wrong. But I'm also going to encourage Jimmy to release himself from the page from the word go. And that's because the way we conceptualize the piece is set early on. And I'm keen to explore on this windy day in Cambridge, blowing off the dust and the cobwebs from how we approach learning pibroch. And this affects our conceptualization of the tune. So let's allow our brains, when we're laying it down, think of it like a heap of sand, okay?
Yep.
The very first, we're going to bring along our little jug of water, and we're going to start pouring the water onto the top of the sand, and it immediately forms a channel. I want to take great care about that, those very first neural pathways. And this is, rather than giving you first off the score, so that is what creates the first channels in your brain, I want those first channels to be formed by the sound of the human voice. And there's a very important reason for it being the human voice rather than the bagpipe. The human voice has louds, can do loud and soft. The bagpipe can't. So with the human voice, I'm able as a teacher to give it shape, to give it expression, to give it meaning, to kind of put a layer of interpretation on it that makes it, let's say, a bit more brain friendly. And that's one of the musical advantages of pibroch, which is the Gaelic word for singing or chanting. And this form of pibroch is that I'm doing. I've sort of absorbed it from Ronan Lightfoot and William McDonald, benbecular. It's a South Uist benbecular tradition that there are plenty of recordings, Barra too, plenty of recordings online. And these recordings of Hebridean pibroch for piping align very, very nicely with a little book that Neil MacLeod of Gaistow published in 1828. And that book contains the pibroch that he transcribed from the singing of Ian Du McDonald. Round about, well, before 1815. So we're going back to the early 19th century here.
Super.
Let's go.
Very Napoleonic.
Exactly.
Yes.
Exactly. So I'll give myself a note. And this, I'm going to pick up a pen. I'll use my chanter. So we're doing two hits on that bottom note. And it's like sobbing, okay? Or the breaking of the voice, all right? These krahanen beats are all to do with beating or sobbing. Let's hear that. Lovely. Okay, and with each note of the bagpipe we have a different vowel. So ho, ha. The ho is for B, and the ha is for D.
Indeed.
Let's, if you just sing them after me. Ho,
Ho,
ha,
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 ho.
ho.
Lovely, thank you. Hihorodo, hiambotra. Now that last bar has an expressive note on it that we call a cadence, or a cadence appuyée, a fall. It's falling onto the bottom note of the bagpipe, the low G. Or he-am. But the important thing to understand is that it's the hum. That's the melody note. So what I might do while we're learning it is I'll just omit that cadence.
Okay.
I'm going to use French pronunciation here because it's not a cadence like a perfect cadence or an imperfect cadence, what you learn in Western music theory. It's a Baroque cadence. And a Baroque cadence, or a Renaissance cadence, isn't what happens harmonically at the end of the phrase. It's the ornament, or the notes, the decoration, the elaboration that happens at the beginning of a phrase. So it marks, it's like the articulation, the rhetorical gesture that signals how important the phrase is at the start. It marks the start of the phrase. And that is where pipers get the word cadence from. Okay? So we're going back to kind of the court of the Sun King.
The Sun King.
Yes.
Louis.
Versailles.
Versailles.
All right? That's where they would use the term cadence appuyée.
Wonderful.
But we're going to strip away the cadence. We're not going to put on a big cadence. We're just going to go They didn't have planes in the criminal day.
No, they're boats, carts,
Galleys.
galleys. Yes.
Yeah. Galleys and oars. So, Hihorodo how humble tra.
Hihorodo hambo ho.
What I'm going to do,
Yeah.
that's okay, don't you worry, I'm going to speed it up a little bit.
Okay.
And speeding it up has the benefit of clarifying the meter. So I can take it into time so that we understand the structure.
Yep.
So it goes Hihorodo how humble tra. No. Let's do that again. I'm going to do it in 3. Hihorodo how humble tra. So it's in a kind of waltz. Hihorodo how humble tra.
How hambo tra.
So we'll do it ba ba ba. Hihorodo ha.
Hihorodo ha.
Lovely. Hihorodo ha.
Hihorodo ha.
Hihorodo ha.
Hihorodo ha.
Hambo tra.
Hambo tra.
Hiambo tra.
Hiambo tra.
Hihorodo ha. O hambo tra.
Hihorodo hambo tra. That wasn't quite right, was it?
Hihorodo ha. O ham. So straight down to the low G. Yeah. Ha. O
hambo tra.
Hihorodo ha. O hambo tra.
Hihorodo ha. Hambo tra.
So, timing-wise,
Yeah.
it really does help. This is where they would use the 3 fingers.
Yeah.
All right. Now these 3 fingers help us to regulate the time,
Okay.
and we're going to count it using the. In fact, the lovely way to do it. You use your left hand. Joseph MacDonald actually says that they use the 4 fingers of the left hand, except in this piece we're in 3, so
Yeah.
we're only going to use the 3 fingers of the left hand. And I want you to use your thumb to touch the top joint, so we're going to go 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Now what you can do is you go through the lines. What they do in India is go down the joints of the fingers. So the first bar uses the top joint, the end joint, and the next bar uses the middle joint of your finger, 3, and then the next bar uses the third joint, 2, 3, and the last bar, the 4th bar, will use the kind of root. Well, it's a bit difficult to stretch that with the thumb, but that's what they do in India, okay? So in other words, we go 1, 2, 3, 2, 2, 3, 3, 2, 3, 4, 2, 3. And that gives us the framework,
Yeah.
and that corresponds to a quarter.
Yeah.
I'll just sing the whole of the quarter.
Okay.
Hihorodo how hambo tra. Hidididile That's the first quarter.
Okay.
And I think that's as much, if we manage to do the first quarter today, that's brilliant.
And that's 4 bars in classical.
Yeah. Well,
in other words,
John MacGregor wrote this out in about 1820. No, in 1820.
Yeah.
And the first, I think that is 1, 2, 3, 4. So that's 4 bars.
Yes,
1,
that's...
2, 3, 4.
Yep.
1, 2, 3, da 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 da. Yeah, it's 4 bars of 3, 4.
Quarter of the Ùrlar.
Yeah.
Fine. Okay. Yes, if we can do that, I will be very amazed. I'll be amazed, pleased.
Well, we've done the first half.
Have we? Gosh.
Yeah. Let's work on the second half now, and then we'll see if we can stitch it together.
My
So
goodness.
we're going to go. Ha bidra bidri.
Ha bidra bidri.
Lovely. And the bidra is straight from Gesto's little book in 1828. Okay. So it's ha bidra bidri.
Ha bidra bidri.
And the emphasis is on bidra. Okay. So it's on the beat. Ha bidra bidri. Ha bidra bidri. That's lovely.
Ha bidra bidri. Okay.
I noticed that you're going bidri with an upbeat. Okay. No. It's bidri. So can we just try that? Ha. So ha bidri bidri. Ha bidra bidri. Ha bidra. Careful. The b needs to come on the beat. Ha bidra bidri. Ha bidra bidri. So open out the bidra. So it's dum da 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 da. Ha bidra bidri. Ha bidra bidri. Lovely. Yes.
Bidra bidri.
It's like a Strasbourg where you're going da dum dee da dum da.
We've got to hit that beat.
Yes. Ha bidra bidri. Ha bidra bidri. Lovely. So that is the end of the first quarter.
Is it?
Yes.
Was that a whole half?
We've just got to do bar 3. So
haven't
bar
done-
3 is he dee dee. Okay, another of these krachen beats.
And that's 3 beats. Yeah.
It's on high G, yeah? He dee dee. This is the climax, the high point of the phrase. He dee dee. And it's a sob, yeah? He dee dee.
He re re. So it's on the R, the beat. He
He
re re.
He dee dee hey ha. So it's going to go he dee dee, and in modern timing it would be he dee and dee. But this is one of the things where David is right to be a rebel, because what's happened in pibroch history, just to kind of take an eagle's eye view to it, is that a whole spectrum of musical expression has been reduced to from a large bandwidth to a narrow bandwidth, and this narrowing happens for all the obvious and normal reasons. Above all, the marginalisation of a culture that is no longer top of the pecking order. Okay, piping collapses from being the most prestigious form of music to being something that you wouldn't be seen doing if you were of a certain social position. Okay, so in that collapse, that cultural collapse during the 19th century, well, really it's post-Culloden. Okay, the aftermath of Culloden, piping collapses, and there's this great narrowing, and new things come in. And part of that narrowing process is the loss of the different genres. So pibroch becomes one thing, whereas it used to be a whole range of different things. And that, across the board, in these krachen beats, there used to be lots of different ways of timing them. Great big subtlety, one from red all the way through to indigo, violet. And what survives, what was transmitted in down the generations, just steadily reduced, both the number of pieces and the way in which they were played and the timing of these beats. So, David was absolutely right, and of course Alan McDonald has been doing it for ages. So Alan McDonald, thank you for kind of blazing the trail here. But we're going to give the evidence respect. Okay, we've got incontrovertible evidence of many, many different ways of timing these beats. What he writes is he-dee-dee. If you time it, sort of take it literally, he goes he-dee-dee, hey-ha. So he-dee-dee, hey-ha. But we know that in the Ùrlar, they called it the Adagio, they did take liberties. Okay, so he'll have written it down in 3/4, and he doesn't write free time or ad libitum. That was taken for granted. That's implicit in the notation. He dee dee hey ham giving it soul.
Wow.
He dee dee. Okay, so we're going to go he dee dee hey ha. Let's try that. He dee dee hey ha. Yes. He dee dee hey ha. Lovely, well done. He dee dee hey ha. He dee dee hey ha. Lots of different ways of timing this. Very emotional. So, he ham bo tra he dee dee.
Ambo tra hiriri.
Ambo tra hi di di.
Ambo tra hiriri.
Great.
Lovely.
Ambo tra hi di di hey ha.
Ambo tra hiriri hey o tra.
Hey and at the top of the scale, we get a good old mixture of vowels in Gesto's book and in oral transmission. So there's quite a bit of flexibility. What Colin Campbell did, of course, was he systematized, organized, and became consistent. But that was his scribal innovation. Okay, he was a rebel too. He created something completely new. And what we're doing here is we're not trying to force Colin Campbell's notation into a systematic way of singing. We're trying to just imbibe all the evidence, contradictory evidence, the human evidence, and be human about it. Okay? And so this requires a certain amount of accommodation of hybridity and inconsistency. Okay? Human beings are not consistent. And imposing consistency on culture, you end up with something very boring. So we don't want to be boring.
No, we don't want to be boring.
He dee dee hey ha.
He dee dee hey ha.
Ambo tra he dee dee hey ha.
Ambo tra hi dee dee hey. I forgot.
Hey ha.
Hey ha.
Yeah, I'm using the vowel her for e. And I heard, it was Rona Lightfoot, I heard her singing an entire pibroch. And when she got to the crooner variation, she was going ho, ha, ho, hem, hen, ha, hen. You know, like 2 minutes, 3 minutes. It was beautiful. And then that kind of neutral vowel really works. Okay? And she wasn't thinking about it. And then I went on to Topper and Dulches, and I heard other people doing it. So it's definitely a traditional vowel colour. And of course, what vowel do you use to write it down? Well,
I think it could be a diphthong, technically, or is it not?
No, it's a schwa.
A schwa. There you go.
Phonologist, it's that
Thank
kind of
you.
neutral vowel. The English word the.
Ah.
Well, in Gaelic, phonologists might use another symbol for it. It's in Gaelic spelling, it's AO. So, Pibroch, or Anurs, the name, Angus, Anurs, it's spelled AO.
Yes.
Merle down. There's another one. Merle down. Merle means hornless. Okay, it's the hornless cow. Merle or bald. Actually, it was referred to the tonsure. Okay, so someone who was a person could be Merle if they had a tonsure.
Right, let's get back to it.
So, there's a sound. Let's just check those vowels, Jimmy. That's it. That's lovely. Yeah, and it works sonically. It's a nice representation of the sound of the drone because blends with the drones. Okay, so you've got a kind of darker, neutral vowel colour to blend with the drones. Is brighter. It sticks out. F. And that's also why you use that n sound or either of those for low A, and then those two notes A and E blend with the drones. They disappear. The other notes stick out. So let's just get my pitch again. Hey ha.
Hey ha.
Hey ha.
Hey ha.
Now I'm just going to sing the whole of this quarter. If I can find the holes in the chanter. There we go. Ùrlar ha o hambandro hididi hey ham badrum badidi. I'll sing it again. Ùrlar ha o hambodra hididi delay hiam badrum badidi. Once again. Ùrlar ha o hambodra hididi hey ham badrum badidi. Do you want to join in with me?
I think so. That's going to be quite a stretch to remember it all at once.
I'll split it into two halves.
Yeah.
We'll do the second half first.
We might manage the two halves. Yeah.
Hee-dee-dee, hey, ham, ba-da-dum, ba-da-dee.
Hee-dee-dee, hey, ham, ba-dee, ba-dee.
Hey, ha.
Hey, ha.
Hey, ham, ba-da-dum, ba-da-dee.
Hey, ham, ba-dee, ba-dee.
Hey, ham, ba-da-dum, ba-da-dee.
Hey, ham, ba-dee, ba-dee.
Hey, ha, ba-da-dum, ba-da-dee.
Hey, ha, ba-dee, ba-dee.
Hee-dee-dee, hey, ham, ba-da-dum, ba-da-dee.
Hee-dee-dee, hey, ham, ba-dee, ba-dee.
Ùrlar ha o hambotra.
Ùrlar, hey.
Let's match them. We've gone hee dee dee, and that should rhyme with Ùrlar because it's question and answer.
Ùrlar, and then after that, hey. Ùrlar.
I'd like to, whatever you do on the hee dee dee
Has to be the same.
needs to be the same. So if we're going to go even, hee dee dee.
Yeah.
A sob. Hee dee dee. Ùrlar.
Okay, so my mind is on what's coming next because I can't remember after the Ùrlar. So I'm not concentrating on that because I'm thinking, oh my goodness, I can't remember the rest of it.
What
So,
I'd encourage you to do in your brain
Yeah.
is to really attach the emotion, the meaning,
Yeah.
the feeling, so that you're connecting with something that's much richer in the brain than notes.
Yeah.
So we're trying to kind of embed in that very first pouring of the water onto this sand, we're trying to embed the meaning. Hihorodo.
Hihorodo.
Hihorodo ha-o-ham.
Hihorodo ha-o-ham.
Beautiful. That was so much more beautiful.
Ha-o-ham.
Hihorodo ha-o-ham.
Hihorodo ha-o-ham.
We must do that more.
Ha-o-ham.
It's not about notes.
No.
It's about the soul, the meaning
Yes.
you give it.
But do you think by doing that, that helps the memory? Because I'm in my, I'm back doing my O-level physics, and I'm trying to remember, words or letters or numbers, that patterns.
Well, I think a
And
synesthetic
getting
approach.
beyond that is quite hard.
Everyone will have their own learning strategy, but I think a synesthetic approach can be very powerful
Synesthetic meaning.
at lots of senses.
Yes. Okay.
So
Yes, I'm with you. Yeah.
Colour, sense, smell,
Yes.
emotion, feel, texture. What texture does it have? Image.
Very dark. Black.
Hihorodo ha-o-ham bo-tra-hi-ri-ri. So you're changing the colour.
Hihorodo ha. See, I can't remember the.
Listen to me a few more times.
Yeah. Go
And
for
just let colours wash through your body, or atmosphere, okay, or smell.
Okay.
Hihorodo ha-o-ham bo-tra-hi-ri-ri. He-o-ham ba-da-da-ba-da-dee. Hihorodo ha-o-ham bo-tra-hi-ri-ri. He-o-ham ba-da-da-ba-da-dee. We'll do the second half first.
Okay.
Hi-ri-ri, he-o-ham ba-da-da-ba-da-dee.
Hi-ri-ri, hey-o-ham, badri, badri.
He-o-ha,
Hey-a-ha,
he-o-ham ba-da-da-ba-da-dee.
hey-a-ham, badra, badri.
Hi-ri-ri, he-o-ham ba-da-da-ba-da-dee.
Hi-ri-ri, hey-o-ham, badri, badri.
Lovely. And what I do is I speed it up to just try and make it easier to get the poetry. Yeah?
Yes.
Does that make sense?
It does. There's one thing that's confusing me. I thought we were doing this in groups of 3. Badri, badri sounds to me like there's only 2.
Hi-ri-ri, he-o-ham ba-da-da-ba-da-dee.
Okay, so I'm
Okay.
missing one early on.
In fact, does that help?
Yes, well, I'm trying to do that.
In fact, you can do so that you know where we are in the piece.
Yeah.
We're on the third segment of our finger here.
Yeah.
Hi-ri-ri, he-o-ha, ba-da-da-ba-da-dee.
So it's he, ri, ri
Yeah.
is one.
Hi-ri-ri, the second ri.
He, ri, ri.
Yes. Hi-ri-ri, he-o-ha, ba-da-da-ba-da-dee.
He, ri, ri, hey-o.
He-o-ha, he-o-ha,
Badri,
he-ha, ba-da-da-ba-da-dee.
ha, badra, badri.
That's it.
Yes, that does help. Because I think what's missing is the visual element.
Okay,
I
well-
desperately want to see something.
Well, let's use, we're going to use these 4 fingers
So I can hear it, but I can't
as
see it.
our, the page. Think of it like
Yeah, no, that's great.
like the page
Yeah, yeah.
framework.
Yeah,
Okay, so we're doing the second half. Hi-ri-ri, he-o-ha, ba-da-da-ba-da-dee.
He, ri, ri, hey. Is it hey?
Yeah,
On the-
he-o.
Hey, ha, badri, badri.
Yeah. So ha, ba-da-da, like that
So
lovely
ba-da-da.
neutral vowel on the
Ha,
ha.
badra, badri.
Yes. ham badra
badri, ham badra badri, ham badra badri. That makes a big difference to my brain seeing that.
So in other words, and also the
I
touch,
think
you
that's
see.
one of the things. Seeing, yeah, the touch
That's
probably
what you
helps.
don't have with screens, you see.
Yeah.
Or
Or a
with
piece of paper.
Yeah. So it's quite a nice system,
Yeah.
and it's you know, it's definitely medieval and British. Okay, it survives in the Middle East and in the certainly they do it in India, but finger counting was absolutely standard all over the planet. Let's go back to the first half now.
Yeah, sure.
So, Hihorodo, how, ham. What again? Hihorodo, how, ham.
Hororo,
Yeah.
hororo.
Yes.
Ham or ham?
Hihorodo, how, ham.
Hororo, how ham.
That's it. And I'm dotting the how, ham because
How ham.
John MacGregor put a dot on it.
He did.
How, ham. Yeah. Hihorodo, how, ham.
Hororo,
How, ham.
Hororo, how ham.
Hihorodo, how, ham.
Hororo, how ham.
Okay, just listen. I'll do it a couple of times.
Yeah.
Hihorodo, how, ham.
How.
Hihorodo, how, ham.
Hororo, how ham.
Hambotra,
Hambotra,
hambotra, hiriri.
Hambotra, hiriri.
Hambotra, hiriri.
Hambotra, hiriri.
Hihorodo, how, hambotra, hiriri.
Hororo, how ham.
Hihorodo, how, hambotra, hiriri, hey, ham, badrum, badri. So we'll just do it quarter bar at a time. Just learning by rote, hearing it, absorbing the feeling of it,
Yeah.
the meaning.
Yeah.
And then getting it embedded in the brain by singing it means that when you apply it on the pipes,
Yep.
you understand the music.
Absolutely. Yeah. And we've done that with one or two other pieces, so I get that. But I'm very much a learner here. L played L, big red.
Okay, so we're winding up now.
Yes, I think we are.
We'll just go through bar time.
Yep.
And then, if you're feeling brave, have a go with the whole
We'll
first
try and
quarter.
do the whole thing, and it will be like scrambled eggs, most of which have not ended up in the pan. I can tell you, they're on our feet,
We'll try it.
or the cooker.
You can do it, Jimmy.
I can certainly scramble eggs.
Hihorodo, how, ham.
Hororo, hororo, how ham.
Hihorodo, how, ham.
Hororo, how ham.
Hambotrahi.
Hambotrahi.
Hiriri, hey, ha.
Hiriri, hey, oh ha.
Ham, badrum, badri.
Ham, badra, badri.
Hihorodo, how, hambotra.
Hororo, how hambotra.
Hiriri, hey, ham, badrum, badri.
Hiriri, hey, oh ham, badri, 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 badri.
That was mostly in the pan. Jimmy, well done.
It was in the pan! It was in the pan!
Well done. Okay.
Yeah.
Coming.
Good.
Super.
Super. It'll taste lovely
We'll continue next
in the
week.
pan. Thank you. Bye.